Hello and welcome. My name is Regina. I'm one of the co-founders of With Intentions Holistic Studio, and our current exhibition, I Wonder, is on view now through December 21st. And today we will be doing an artist roundtable and having a discussion with many of the artists in the exhibit. So let's go ahead and meet them.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Gilman Beezley. I am a now local artist. I moved here about a year ago. I live in Manasquan. So thank you, Regina, and also Jonathan, who's not here, for having such a lovely gallery and showcasing local artists. It really is a pleasure to be here. You can use she and her as my pronoun. I have two pieces here that are both moon related. One is Wolf Moon and the other is Once Upon a Time, and we'll probably share more about that later. So let me pass it to.
Hello, my name is Matt Pazik. I'm a photographer, and thank you, Regina and Jonathan, for giving me the opportunity to present some of my work that's hanging up in the studio. I grew up in Jackson, New Jersey, and currently I live in Eatontown. Local photographer, pronouns he or him, and passing it on.
Cool. Katie Truk, pantyhose. Let's see. Hamilton Square. Thank you. Katie, her, she, doesn't matter. I'll respond to anything.
I'm Nicole Becktel. I wrote the play Alice in Wonderland, which will be performed next weekend, October 22nd to 24th, and she, her, or whatever. I also respond to most things, so I don't really care.
Hi, Dean Caprario. I did this, and my work's based on spiritual path, and so reflective of that. And he, him works, and yeah, I'm from Staten Island, if that matters. Shoot me now.
Hi, I'm Lucijana, and I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you, Regina. And Jonathan, the Singing Bowls champion. Oh my God, his work. So I've been doing a large-scale acrylics. I am a lifer, a New Jersey lifer. Most of my life was spent in North Jersey, but I've been at the shore about 12 years. Most of my life has been as a closet artist. I just never manifested for me, but I took it into my own hands, and last year I produced 60 pieces of art.
Yay! Wow.
And it's been a wonderful experience, and I'm looking forward to the new and next, but I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
Janet started decorative painting in 2002 after a career wearing suits and carrying a briefcase, and just recently started making hand-painted wallpaper. So not exactly the same kind of hang it on the wall art as everybody else, but thank you for accepting my piece, and I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jess. I'm the director of Alice in Wonder How I Can Get a Job Land. Thanks to Regina and Jonathan for giving us the opportunity to do this here. I can go by anything, she, he, it, whatever, I don't care. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Fabulous. Well, thank you for those introductions, and to give a little bit more background to those who are joining us online and here in the studio. We have the collection of artists that are in our exhibit, as well as those that are part of this production we're putting on this month, and it's just all wonderful. So you're going to be hearing that word a lot today. We're going to be talking about wonder and finding that in the world, outside, within ourselves as well. And already we have some people who are tuning in and saying hello. So hello, Dowie, thank you for joining us. And Isla Carps, thank you for joining us. Hello to you. If you have any questions as you're joining online, feel free to comment them, and we will try to get to them. If you can't hear us or anything weird is happening technically, please let us know. And otherwise, let's jump into it, shall we? So we're discussing wonder, and we have a beautiful, diverse range of responses to that theme we put out there. So the first question I have, and to anyone who'd like to jump in on it, is where do you find wonder? Where do you find it? And where have you found it? And maybe it relates to the pieces that you have here in this show or the play that you're working on, or maybe it's outside of that. So feel free to let us know.
All right, well, I'll start because I mentioned that I have two paintings that were inspired by the moon. And so when I thought about your show, and I thought I Wonder was a really interesting concept, I think all of us can relate to being a child and looking at the moon and how it changes shape. And I know for myself, I would always try and find a telescope and see if I could actually see the moon, and it was always hard to really focus it. So I was never that successful. So now being here at the beach, you can really see the moon over the ocean, and it's just so amazing to see it on the horizon. It always looks bigger, although that's an optical illusion, apparently. So that's really the genesis of the two paintings that I'm sharing now. One is Wolf Moon. It's called that because I painted it in January this year, and that is the Wolf Moon. Every month has a name for the moon, which I didn't know either. But that is, and it seemed to suit the painting itself. And then the other one is Once Upon a Time, and there's a little glimpse of a moon, and there's some trees, and it just seemed like a really storybook setting. So almost like a fairy tale, which again is all about wonder. So that's me.
Yeah, so definitely an artist, and especially in these pieces, that has found wonder in nature. And that I've seen in a couple of artists here in the show. So I don't know if anybody who especially has that relationship with nature, whether the moon or other places, would like to add to that.
I feel like for myself, like in nature, whether it's out on a mountain or hiking or taking pictures of the moon, whatever, I always find myself wondering about different universes, different realities, different things. Why are we here on this planet, for instance? That's a big one that I always contemplate in my head, thinking of different things and different universes and stuff. And, it always makes my mind wonder, especially with my photography too, like different landscapes and seeing things from different perspectives. Photography is one of them things where you can change a little bit of things and add your own twist to it, outside of painting and drawing. And I was never good at drawing, but I'm good at doing this, so that's why I stuck with photography. But it's my 2 cents into it.
Love it. Yeah, I think there's this transformative moment, right, where you find the wonder in the scene that you're capturing, but like you said, it really brings you to a space far beyond that, and to the deep existential questions of like, I wonder why I exist even. And that's where I find such connection between works that might be representing nature here in this show, but also some of the works that might be more abstract or more cosmic or more fantastical and in quite wondrous, fantastical lands. So I don't know if anybody has anything to that of the wonder you found.
I'd like to add that there's a broader context to nature. It's not just what we see here on Earth, the trees and whatnot. The planets, the stars, the universe, the way that galaxies swirl around, that's all nature as well. And also, if you want to go even further down the rabbit hole, all that nature are actually somewhat metaphorical because it ties into human nature and the way that we think and process information, because that's nature too. What's going on within is like what's going on without, as within, so without. Anyway, yeah, nature, I wonder just how deep nature goes. It's not just the surface.
It goes all the way.
Yeah, although the surface is beautiful.
And ceramics and glass blowing, and I just started sewing. Sewing to me is very meditative, and I think that's important with all of our work. I'm sure that you take a moment of looking and reflecting, and I do the same. So I went from working, trying to put pantyhose with everything and eggs and crush to just sewing it itself. And so I'll sit for hours sewing. People are like, oh, but it must be exciting to watch you work, like painters, like that's it. I mean, you must be like, oh, I'm like, it's very boring. Watch me just sew. It's totally Zorville, because it is. It's all in my head and I'm channeling it through the piece. I mean, painters are so much more energetic and things like that, but
So I'll date myself, but my first job, I was not allowed to wear pants and I had to wear pantyhose.
Oh God.
And so it's so nice to see them repurposed into these fabulous works of art. It's really a little bit cathartic for me. So
cool.
Yeah.
Can you do something with bras next time?
I have done things with bras. Unfortunately goes, the nice thing, I try to remove the crotches and the things that make you think of pantyhose or anything beyond pantyhose to bring it to that abstract. I feel like bras and certain objects automatically make your mind go somewhere. Whereas this one, I'm kind of like, on all my pieces, as I'm sure with all of yours, you want to kind of, direct you somewhere else, And that's, so I try to stay away from crotches.
Keep it G.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to be G. The title could be a little bit something, but I want it to be more in your mind instead of something that is blatantly in your face in that way. Like, sex! A little bit more subliminal.
So I just want to check in here. Seems like we were having a little issue with our sound. So again, let's try to talk really loud here. And otherwise, we'll carry on our conversation. And I like that we've kind of transitioned into talking about the wonder of process and materials and troubleshooting. So I don't know if others have more to volunteer on that aspect of wonder. Once you find the wonder of whatever inspired you to get to the canvas or to the pantyhose or to the camera, then there's the wonder of, yes, can I do it? What will happen if I do it with this material? And I wonder what people will think, right? To me, there's that next layer as an artist, which is putting your work out there. How will it be received? And does that enter into your process at all? Does that not enter into your process? And yes, I'll go to Nicole if you have a thought.
I don't care anymore. But I used to care a lot. I used to send my stuff out to different, publishers, depending on what it was, different theaters, and I used to care a lot about what people would think, and I don't care at all anymore. A lot of my writing, and especially this one, it's a parody of Alice in Wonderland, but it started off with the idea of I wonder why we believe certain things, and I wonder why society is like this, and in this case it's about the job market and why we believe that our job should define us. And we put all of our eggs in one basket with our job and think that that's the label we should have, and that's makes us we base our worth on it. So for me, it's I should take my own advice and not base my worth on how other people perceive it. Now again, if you're making money off of it, that's a whole nother thing. But for me, I stopped kind of caring, and that's hard to do. But I kind of think that when you don't care so much, I think you find your audience and they will appreciate you and what you have to put out there, regardless of trying to force yourself into a certain mold of what's popular or whatever it may be.
You can't be chasing popular because there's no, that's so fleeting. It's really fleeting. That's like a fad in fashion.
Yeah.
You can't chase it. So I personally know that there are works of art that appeal to me that others do, and I say, wow, it's a feeling thing for me. And do I think that it's important for other people to be saying, wow? No, not necessarily, because I know that since art is so subjective, somebody's going to come along who's going to say, that's for me. It's like a relationship. It's really all the same. It's all that same energy that you have out there. It's either for you or it's not for you. So do I worry about, am I good enough? Is it good enough to hang? Is it good enough to keep producing? No, I'm just going to keep doing it and doing it as best I can.
I feel like I'm my own worst critic,
Yeah.
especially with photography, and I beat myself up a lot about my photography. I compare a lot to a lot of people that I respect in the photography world, and I'm like, it's not that great. I don't really like it. Oh, I could have did this. Oh, I could have took it at a different angle. Oh, I could have did that. And, for me, it's gotten to a point now where people are going to like it, they're not going to like it. And, this is, my first show, I guess you could say, of displaying my art and displaying my photography. So for me, I was a complete nervous wreck. Even coming here last weekend and literally sweating, and I was like, thank God I wore black because I'm sweating profusely. And people are looking at it. I'm like, what are they saying? Let me go over there and see. And all that types of stuff that I tell myself in my head, and then before I know it, I'm like, I don't want to do this. I can't do this. But I've gotten to the point now where my work's out there and people respect it, and a lot of people that I've talked to respect my work, and it's like you said, it's different strokes for different people. Not everybody's gonna be my biggest fan is gonna follow me and try to support me, and there's people that do, and I need to stick with the people that do outside of the people that don't. And I think social media is the biggest one, Instagram, Facebook, because you see something, especially with me with photography, I'll see the picture that I took and somebody else posted the same picture, maybe a little different, and get way more appreciation to it compared to mine. It's like, well, what did I do wrong? And it's nothing against me. It's just how it works, I guess, in the social media world. So
I'm open to criticism. I'm open to suggestions. I think that's how I've gotten to the sizes that I work at. Because people are like, have you ever done square? Have you ever done circle? Have you ever done a flat? And I'm open to that. But I agree, it's up to you. You have to be pleased because you're putting it out there with your name on it. Mm-hmm. So it's really important that you're happy with the final product. Because if you're not happy and you're sitting there like, it's just going to show. I mean, completely for everybody. They're like, ugh.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, for me, it's not so much about the product at the end. It's really is the process. I mean, this is part of a spiritual path, very much literally. And I learn from the paintings that I do and the various art that I do. And I grow from it. And the few people who follow me online might grow from it too, but those 12 people, if they do or not. It's really not my concern because I do it for myself, period. And it's authentic. I mean, the way you get from me is authentic, and I don't care if you like it or not.
Do you feel like you have to narrate your work? Do you feel like you need a story? I know sometimes when you abstract work, people always want to know the story behind it. And since yours is such an emotional and spiritual thing, do you feel as though you want to share what's going on behind it, or do you want the work to speak for itself?
Yeah, that's a very good question, because my impulse is to over-explain it, and at the end of the explanation, I'm like, I ruined it for you, didn't I? I really sure I ruined it for you, because part of the fun is the exploration for yourself, Like your work, I don't want you to explain it to me in a way, just because I want to discover it myself and see what I can pull out of it. So that.
Seal, who said, I don't care what people think of the lyrics, it's whatever lyrics, if I tell you what the real words are, then you might be totally horrified and it changes the song, right? So I dig it, so I have had pieces where when I tell them the background behind why I made it, they're like, ugh. I was like, yeah. So I totally, I'm there with you.
Well, someone in our audience is agreeing with us and saying, same with the over-explaining. Thank you. I think it seems we're in agreement. I don't know if anyone has anything in opposition. But also,
I think words matter completely. I do think there's a way to express what you're creating with your words as well as the actual image. I just find that people want to know the backstory. Maybe you can't write a whole novel about it, but if there's a real inspiration and it's coming from an authentic place, people want to know about that, and it really helps them to appreciate the art even more. So, I mean, I write about everything that I do. I take videos, I talk about it. I think that really helps my clients. So it's, I guess, what you're comfortable with, but
You found a balance there. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, they could just look at it. They don't have to read the whole thing. I know when I look at art, I try not to look at the title for a while because I feel that really kind of moves you in a direction. Whereas I do want to appreciate it just spontaneously at first, but then I do want to read the title because I want to know what the artist was thinking. Like, why did they title it that? And that might really adjust the way I perceive it. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent, but I have to say that with my work in mind, and I could name it whatever I want. So we're gonna look at this one for instance. To me, it says bits and pieces. It implies a life, bits and pieces of a life. Jonathan took a look at it. Jonathan of With Intentions, and he said, "That's light language," and I went, "Really? I had no idea."
It's what language?
Light language.
Hmm.
Everyone has a different interpretation. So I don't like to explain too much. I don't like to talk too much. I'd rather have people feel it for themselves and put their own interpretation in.
Yeah, so social media, I had a poll because I wanted to name the Wolf Moon painting, and I had two choices. One was Wolf Moon, and the other was Moonlight Sonata, or maybe Moonlight Serenade. I think it was Moonlight Serenade. And so I gave everybody a choice, like, what do you think? And I got so many great responses just discussing that and why they thought it would be one versus the other. So I think to me, it's important.
And that's a great conversation to have with your audience.
Yeah,
What do you think?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever had any negative response from the sharing of all of your intuition?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, you have to have a thick skin in the art world if you're enjoyed shows, or if you're trying to even get into an exhibit and you have to apply, and sometimes there's a monetary cost associated with that. So then if you don't get in, you feel doubly worse because now your money went out the window, you didn't even get in. So,
I mean, like a direct verbal, someone telling you a negative, have you gotten that since you're so online?
people are
presence?
pretty nice about it
Okay.
in person. I haven't had a lot of that on Instagram or Facebook or even my newsletters or, whatever I'm doing. I mean, I don't have a huge audience. I probably have like maybe 500 followers. So my newsletter goes to about 800 people. So usually it's very, if I get any response, I'm happy. I feel like most people don't notice what you're posting, or it goes into their spam folder and, just disappears. So, but usually if people like something, they'll comment. If they don't like it, they probably wouldn't comment, I would think. Yeah.
So some things said thus far in this conversation is about authenticity, balance, right? If we're going to share about our work, let it be authentic. Let there be a balance of amount of information and insight into the process and the artist, and a bit of that mystery and wonder for the viewer to experience it in their own way. And speaking of authenticity, one of the questions that's been asked here by one of our viewers, and is something I also had in mind, is being a child. And you referenced it earlier about looking at the moon as a child. And I think a child is a great example of someone who is quite authentic and will say it as it is, as they believe it, and will view the world with this wonder that we as adults, I think, are sometimes trying to grasp. So 2 questions to put out there. One, asked by Dowie, was, what did you wonder about as a child? What was some of the first things you were doing artistically, creatively, or otherwise as a child that maybe now in adulthood you look back on and kind of grasp onto in your artistic processes now? Well, let's begin there. Yeah, what were you doing as a child, and how was wonder wrapped up in that?
So I was a very imaginative child. One of the first memories I have was I used to have picture books, and all I wanted in life was to learn how to read. And I was really upset that I didn't know how to read. Like, you had to wait till you were like in first grade. I think they taught reading at the time. And I would, sit there and I would get picture books and I would make up stories to the pictures, and I would make up musicals to the pictures. So like they would have a song and they would have like dialogue or whatever, and that would be like some process there. And I think Alice in Wonderland I've loved since I was a kid, and like was always been my favorite. I've seen the Disney movie like probably hundreds of times. Probably tell you all the words to it. Every version of it I've probably seen to some extent. Like watched it over and over again when I was sick. It used to comfort me, and I think it's because I was always a weird child, and I felt like I didn't make a lot of sense, and then the whole movie is kind of about nonsense, and I felt like that comforted me. It was like somebody else out there is like me, or somebody wrote something that's kind of doesn't make any sense or has elements in it that's nonsense. And it was always very comforting to me as a child. So I always found inspiration in that. But I did every type of art. I always sang, I always danced, acted, wrote poetry, plays when I was a little kid, novels, everything. So I drew, painted, whatever. So I was always doing something imaginative.
And you still draw on that energy today as an adult.
Yes. I find that whatever you liked as a kid never really goes away. And as we get older, we kind of move away from that because we're told like, that's childish or that's silly. You need to grow up. And I feel like obviously you evolve as a person, but there's like, we really look at what you liked as a kid. It doesn't really change that much. So it's always, I think, important to go back and see like, look, if you want to find out who you are, is to really look at who you were before people try to change you.
I agree. Children have a complete honesty too. And I think that's something that we lose as adults by trying to be nice to each other. Like kids will tell you flat out if you've got to sit on your face, right?
Yeah.
Whereas we're like, no, you look great. You don't look sickly at all. There's an honesty. And I think that as an artist, we're constantly trying to find that honesty within ourselves to project and kind of, inspire us personally. I love it.
Right. So as an adult, as an artist who maybe as a part of your mission, your process is kind of hearkening back to that childlike moment of honesty and authenticity and really presenting the truth of the matter on the canvas or what have you. How does one do that? Does anyone have a process of embodying this childlike wonder? Is there a formula to it? Is there a spell? How does one get back to that moment? Can one get back to that moment? I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. When you're in the flow, you're not thinking. You're creating the creative flow stops time. So you're not your age, you're not your identity, you're not the person. You're just a creator. You're just making something. And that is childish because you're not feeling responsible. You're not thinking about anything. You're just in the flow, enjoying the colors. How does this color work with this color? I mean, okay, you can know color theory and all that, but hey, let me break that theory a little bit and see how this color works with that color. And you're just having fun. For me, art is like my real childhood. I'm having it now. Because as a kid, I had to learn 3 languages within the first 10 years of my life. So I was busy learning and I didn't know any better. For me, that was just the way life was. And any creative attempts I had at that time were pretty much squelched. Can't do that. Can't do that. Paper's expensive, pencils are expensive, and no hard feelings. But it wasn't a very creative household, and that's cool. That's just the way it was. So my life now is all about creating, all about being in the flow and just having fun.
But I think that's part of it. It's like getting rid of the voices of all those people saying that you couldn't have, you don't do this, da 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 da, don't sing, don't do that, you know what I mean? All those things. And that's true wonder if you can get back there to that childhood, because then you're not listening to the voices. You're like, no, and because kids are also like, you can tell them 1,000 times, but you missed a spot or you're out of the line or whatever, and they're like, no, I'm done. So you have to listen to that voice and get rid of all the other voices that we have collected in our age.
Yeah.
And I think that's the important part.
Yeah, I think that's so key because part of what I've been going through is eliminating the self-censor, the one that said, "Oh, that's what Dean the stupid kid would have done." Well, let's go there to what Dean the stupid kid used to do because he was a pretty cool kid, and he got squashed a bit over time, unfortunately.
I think you bring up a really good point because, like, even though I just said, like, I did all these creative things, it was an escape for me. Like, it wasn't always appreciated by my family. It wasn't always honored by my family, even though, like, a lot of my extended family or, like, ancestors, you could say, were artists. I found out recently a lot of them were musicians and sculpture artists. My immediate family did not always appreciate that because they didn't really understand. They did not inherit that ability. They were very serious people. So
they wrote you off as a weird kid.
Yeah. So I was always like the black sheep or whatever. And and like I actually have a little plaque in my house that says like I'm the rainbow sheep or something because I'm like colorful and stuff. So I feel like what you just said is like I kind of pushed that aside for a while. I'm like, I can't be like that. Like there was a lot of criticism there. So I'm like, I can't be like that. Like I want to run from that. It was an escape, which is also probably why Alice in Wonderland appeals to me because it's like an escape. The world's an escape and she's kind of like escaping in a way into this dream world. And I realized now it's more prominent in my life where I'm like, I don't care. Like I'm just going to wear a yellow wig if I want to wear it. I'm going to wear a silly shirt. I'm going to wear crazy makeup. Like I just don't care anymore because, that may sound weird, but I don't care because for so long, like you just said, I had to push it aside and like suppress it because not everybody could understand or appreciate it. And it's like, I'm not going to keep waiting and wasting my life to waiting for somebody to appreciate that. So.
Well, you know you're the artist. You know you've always been the artist. I know I've always been creative.
Yeah.
And that I belonged to a very pragmatic family. Mm-hmm. Nothing against them.
Yeah.
No, nothing at all. They did the best they could.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to borrow that yellow wig the next time I talk to my mom. Who still to this day is very pragmatic and still offers her opinion about how things should be, which I don't really agree with anymore. There's no should.
There's no should.
There is no should. I mean, why would there be a should?
Because people haven't driven their lives into the wall and destroyed it and say, oh, well, that's all bullshit. Now what?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I am coming from. So a lot of really bad things happen. And it's like, okay, death, disaster, near death, crashing. And then you pick yourself up and say, okay, now what? What am I saving it for? What do I really want to do? What really fills me with joy? And it's colors and textures and all those things that I loved as a child, bunnies and sparkles and chicken feathers and the ladies' fur coats that I used to mortify my mother by trying to touch and all of that stuff that I had kind of put to the side because I was like the family brainiac and bullshit. And I don't care about that. I care that people like my things because I'm trying to make a living and doing these things. But I don't have to appeal to a lot of people. I just have to appeal to that client and that designer with my portfolio and like, can you make something a little more like this? Yes, I can, and it gives me so much pleasure to do that. But I'm not saving it for anything else. I just, I'm just trying to be myself and forget all that other stuff because all that other stuff did not keep me safe. It did not prevent people from dying. It did not prevent from, the world from crashing around me. It did not prevent any of that. So what's it for? Just let it all go and be yourself. There's something else.
Was it hard finding it after all of the drama? Finding that one thing, or did you always know and you've just been suppressing it?
Well, kind of when your life is in flames, but seriously in flames, you really have no place else to go. It's like, oh, if I hold my face this way, everything will be all right. No, it won't. If I wear this kind of a skirt, it'll be all right. No, it won't. If I behave this way, it'll be all right. No, it won't. Everything, no. No, it won't be all right. So then you're really left with, I just might as well be myself because that's all that's left. And what is it that fills me with life? And what is it that makes me happy? And how can I make that into something that I could survive making a living and that maybe make other people happy too? So my house, I have had a few different houses, and that house I live in now, and I've painted them all a million different colors. And my niece, I come from a very conservative Mormon family. I'm the consummate black sheep. And my niece came and said, well, I'm here at my crazy Aunt Janet's house, and she's got all these colors in her room, and I noticed something, and that is that I feel differently in this room than I feel in that room. And it's like, yes, because color really affects our mood and our mind and how we respond to things. And that's one of the things that I really love is I love color. And how do we find our joy? I go to the paint store, and I go to, the craft store, and I go to New York to all the fancy little, things where you buy sparkly stuff. And I buy all that stuff, and then I bring it home, and then I look at it like, what can I do it really fun with that? And that's what I do. I mean, that's what that came from. Just putting stuff together, like, I think make it crusty, and I put this in, and and the end product is something really fun. And maybe somebody will actually, buy that and let me wallpaper their powder room so that when somebody's sitting in there doing their private business, looking around, their mind is sort of free to go to some really spectacular place because it's totally private. No one is butting in to say, oh, you can't think that. No, shut up. I'm sitting here doing my business and just kind of looking around. And that's my favorite room in the house, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's just, it's a way to share an experience and to help people have an experience that they wouldn't normally have. Because you're sitting in the bathroom and it's like, oh, it's beige. No, no, you don't want that. You want something like spectacular. Just, you close the door, no one else has to see it. You're in there, it's spectacular. This is cool.
I have a friend
your
who
mind
used
is
to-
free.
I have a friend who used to paint murals in her bathrooms. I mean, full on ceilings, walls,
yes.
floor. That was pretty fantastic.
I don't have the representational mojo. Maybe I do. I mean, I've taken some drawing classes and I actually can draw. But I have the patience for it. I'm 110 years old. I don't have the patience to learn how to do all this stuff. I just put stuff together. I'm sorry?
You do it well.
Well, thank you. I love that. It's just, I'm having a million different samples and I'm making more samples. And someone was talking about popularity. So one of my friends who's super brilliant theater person, she was saying, oh, if you made a fabulous wall texture with a crown and a girl's name on it, you can sell it for like a lot of money. Well, I'm thinking, why not? It could be fun. I could make it my way. So it's like, if I can make it my way, Frank Sinatra, then I'm looking for stuff to make the tiara and my own funky little thing, and I can play with my magic potions in the studio. And it'll be fun. It'll be my thing.
I think that with what's happening in society and the great resignation, have you guys heard about that? People are
Yes.
just giving up their jobs.
Oh yeah.
I think that artists are now going to become the it people. They're going to come to us.
We're always the good people, dude. Always.
No, we haven't been.
The trendsetters, though.
Pushed
usually.
aside.
Yes.
Pushed aside.
Yes.
I think that we're on to
And stolen
something.
from.
That goes with the territory, but that's that's pretty cool. You want to steal from me?
Yeah, but they're making money off of my idea. That's the thing.
You make more money with another idea because you're the one who's got the ideas.
That's true. We are the idea creators,
We
aren't
are
we?
the creators. Yes.
So speaking of ideas and again, staying in the space of wonder, we have a little time left, so I have a couple more thoughts for us to consider. And one is, we've talked a bit about this, of the discovery in the process. I think we were talking a little about relinquishing control and being your authentic self, going where you want to flow. So there are some artists and some of us that really have the plan that we create, we follow through that plan, and there it is. There's the finished piece. And there are those of us that maybe maintain a bit more that sense of wonder throughout the process, not knowing what the piece is going to look like at the end. Maybe you have some vision, but you don't quite know. And especially, I think, for those of us that work collaboratively, maybe in something like theater, you don't know how it's going to turn out, I'm assuming, when you have other energies coming in or spirit coming in. So kind of the last big question I'm going to throw out there is, how do you maintain that sense of wonder in your process, if you do? Or do you carry your plan out that you envision from A to B to C?
Mine is throughout.
Wonder throughout.
I have no idea what it's going to look like in the end. But I can tell you that I know when I don't like it, then it becomes something completely different. So it morphs until everybody's happy. There it is.
I just chop them up and make business cards. I don't like that. I don't chop them up and make business cards out of it. Little stillborn efforts.
I'd cut a few up.
Oh, gosh.
So speaking to maybe those who work in theater, how does a vision come to be when you're working with others and you're not sure how it's going to turn out and you don't have full control over it?
I feel like for me, I kind of like not having control because it's something that I struggle with with other things I have going on in my life, and I don't want to obsess about it. So I feel like taking that and giving it to somebody else, kind of helps me to let it go, because otherwise I feel like I would tax myself a little bit. But it's interesting because this play has been done this will be the third time. Just did it once before at a different place there's two same actors, but they're in different parts.
Yeah.
And then there's, we did it in New York, but as a reading. And every time it's different. And I kind of like that. And I'll be honest with you, and I've seen this before too, because I've had a couple of friends who've had a play that was done by community theater actors and then done by New York actors who could, who were equity actors. And I like the community theater version better a lot, because I think that a lot of times they don't have that, I think there's certain things, I guess, in your head you're supposed to do as an actor. Mm. And I guess the people who maybe aren't as quote unquote trained, or maybe they're given more freedom to interpret the characters. I like that. Because it's supposed to be a weird, zany characters. I like when people go all out with it. And I felt like when we did New York, I was very grateful it was in New York, but it wasn't as much of that. So it's interesting to me how each interpretation is different, but I liked being surprised and seeing this is one interpretation, that's another interpretation, that's another interpretation. So for me, that does work to relinquish. I actually like collaborating as long as I get along with the other person and it's not something toxic or whatever. That could happen, I guess. I enjoy collaborating because I'm a social person, and I feel like when you're writing or anything, you get very lonely and you get in your head, stuck in your head, obsessive a lot. So I try not to do that. Do you want to answer the next part?
I think you got it covered.
I try to get you to say more, but because how do you feel about collaborating and seeing the steps? Because you're taking something that you didn't write, and I'm sure doing it here is different than doing it on stage.
Yeah. I mean, we haven't done it on stage per se. It's always been just in a space.
Yeah.
So.
Mm.
But last time it was kind of more the theater than here, so yeah.
Yeah. We had a little stage.
And
little stage.
speaking to art in different places, right?
Yeah.
This exhibition, as you artists know, and those who have seen it so far, know that this isn't a white cube gallery, and it's not a black box theater, if that's what you call it. Maybe,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
Something like that.
Something like that. So the question, I guess, to follow up to any of the artists here is how the environment that houses your work after it's been completed, after it leaves the studio, how does that inject perhaps another layer of wonder and shift the experience of your art piece that might look completely different in a powder room or on a white wall in a white cube or in a more active space like ours? Do you ever have a sense of wanting to control how your work is seen and experienced, or are you kind of open to let's see what it looks like here or here or here?
I think it's also really interesting to see the audiences. You're going to get a different audience no matter where you are. And every space is going to bring about a different audience. And I think that's really something that's fun to see what that audience thinks. So I'm open for a gallery or whatever, because then it's a different viewpoint. And so you get a different feedback, a different this is a collaboration of different viewpoints here as well, which is also really exciting for my mental exposure. So I think that's great, as long as you're open to it. Yeah, otherwise.
Yeah, I've had very mixed feelings about where my art lands because they really are your babies in a way. You put a lot of your self into each creation, and so when they leave and go to usually a home, I always want to know where they end up. So I'm always asking for photographs. Where did you hang it? Can you send me a quick photo? I'd love to see where it landed. And usually they're in great places and I'm very pleased, but occasionally someone will put one where, half a vent is sticking out from the side, or it's hung up so high and it looks really bad and you don't want to tell the person, but you're just kind of thinking to yourself, oh boy, that really does not look so great. But I mean, that's probably the vast majority. People do know what they're doing and they have a place and they've kind of planned where it's going to go and, everything is fine. But you do get those moments like, oh my gosh, what were they thinking?
That's exactly why I don't want to know where it's landed. Like if you're taking home one of my forever babies, I don't want to know because it's almost like adopting. And then if you find out that you let that kid go into like a horrible home, that'll pain you, nightmares. It's like, no.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Somebody loves your art enough to bring it into their home. They love it and they love where they placed it. And they may not have the space. So that I'm kind of rationalizing this now.
Yeah,
but,
no, I know.
One of my clients said, oh, I know, the vent one. Like, I know it was not like the perfect place, but like it was the only spot I had and I just had to have it. So you have to, feel good about that. It's just kind of like, oh gosh.
And also, it might not be its final resting place.
Yeah.
It might end up with
right.
that person's daughter
Yeah.
in her house, where it's in a beautiful location.
Or in a yard
It's-
sale, you just never know.
Exactly. At least I just hope my stuff doesn't end up in a trash can.
Oh.
If it doesn't end up in a trash can,
It won't. It won't.
but you don't know.
You gotta let it go. You gotta let it go.
Gotta let it go.
That's a real question about control. Like, how much control do we really have, either within the process or after all of that? That's a really good question. And personally, I feel like I'm okay with not having control. You want to buy it, go play, go.
Go in peace.
Go.
Well, you have to have that point of view because you really don't have any control. I mean, you're wishing for something you can't have.
And you look like a real nut job if you were calling them up saying, I really don't like the way you run this.
I'll say as like a person who does not make visual art on this walls and have any fine art on this wall. Every time I take yoga here, I come for different things. Every time I see something, I'll just see the same art show over and over again. Like I've seen probably this one about 10 times already, right? It's different for me every single time.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of like that. I kind of like that because most art shows you go once, right? You go to the museum once and then maybe they change it unless it's like a continuing exhibit, right? Or, most of the time you see it once. And then here I see it all the time. So I'll be in yoga and I'll be more meditative. I'm like, oh, I see something in that one. And then maybe I'm having a conversation with somebody more like a community event. And I'm like, I'll be having a conversation with somebody about this, whatever, one of the other paintings. And it's like, it really I like the fact that you can revisit things multiple times. And have a different opinion of it or a different interpretation of it each time.
Love it. So speaking of visiting, and to kind of wrap us up a little bit, my last thought question to pose to you is kind of wondrous and silly. And it is, if you were to inhabit, to visit, to be in a space of your choosing, and you had the control to say, I am going to be here, is it exactly where you are? Is it Wonderland? Is it Neverland? Is it Oz? Is it the cosmos? Is it on the moon? Just to bring some, childlike wonder into this conversation, where would you find yourself if you could find yourself anywhere? And maybe for this question especially, I'm going to go to each and every one of you. Yeah, pressure's on. Pressure's on. And it can be right here. Maybe we're exactly where we need to be. Anyone want to start?
Well, I like the fact that it's in context, in a space where people do yoga and Reiki, and it's a place where people come to develop their spiritual abilities or whatever, I don't know how to, prowess. And so the work is actually helping people. It's part of the space that you have here. It's part of what you offer to people who come to take yoga. It's like a synchronicity of like, it's like energy stacking.
Right. So you kind of enjoy bringing the wonder into our everyday space where we have practices and, hey, we don't need to go to Wonderland.
It's useful.
Right.
Yeah, right here, it has a purpose. It's helping somebody, maybe. Certainly more than sitting on my living room wall where it's just helping me.
Mm-hmm.
I will go to Wonderland. I don't think anybody would think I would answer that.
All right. We'll see you there.
Yeah. I think I'm lucky to feel wonder in my studio every day. You know, I mean, as a human, I don't think we're ever 100% happy wherever we are. We're always trying to strive for something else. So unfortunately, no matter where I am, I think I'm always going to be wondering where else I could be. And that's part of my own personal problem.
This business is a problem. It's not a problem.
For me, well, obviously nature. It's one of my, I feel completely grounded in nature, and I like my pictures, for instance, like I didn't know I was going to see that. And that's what makes me wonder too. Like every time I set out for an adventure, a hike, catch the sunrise, go watch the moon, anything, I don't know what's going to happen. Like I just show up and either it's going to be cloudy and really suck and I'm not going to get anything, or it's going to be beautiful, no clouds or a little bit of clouds or whatever. And for me, I would love to explore deep space. That's probably something that I would love to do. I don't think I'm going to be a billionaire anytime soon, so I don't think I'm going to be part of the quote unquote rich people space race. But
Never say never. There could be a lottery.
that's it. Could be. But I would be very fascinated to see what it's like, and to finally debunk all the crazy conspiracy theories of we're in a flat Earth. But no offense if anybody believes that. But there's just so much unexplained things out there that I would love to see an adventure. And I found that in nature, just hanging out in nature, sitting there out in the mountain, whatever, and just finding peace, finding grounding. And it's very important to ground, I feel like. And I was reading in a book not that long ago that a lot of our veins are actually like trees.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actually always connected to nature.
Mm-hmm.
Always. So.
And to you, Matt, someone says, you never know. Dream big.
Thank
So. Anybody else want to travel into the cosmos or somewhere else? Yes.
So I love my house. I've been there for 30 years and it's all encrusted with all of my stuff and lots of artwork and fun things. And then when I go into my studio, it's like, well, why am I not living here? It's so pleasant. It's so spacious. The acoustics are great. But last night, I went to see this very ethereal guitarist. He's Brooklyn-based, based from Argentina. And he plays really incredibly ethereal compositions that are jazz inflected, but based on Argentinian rhythms and dances. And I thought, wow, I used to really want to go to Buenos Aires. I think I want to go there again and hear that music. So that just made my hair stand up. I think I want to go there.
Well, Dowie says she loves your studio and she'd live there. Yeah.
Oh, my contractor keeps telling me, I'm going to put a shower in there and you should live there and rent out your house. No, I should not do that. I should make artwork in my studio. That's what I should do. Yeah, and she's welcome to come hang out anytime. I love Dowie.
I'm sure she heard that. Anybody else? Where are we going?
Yeah.
Yes.
I of course, want to jump in a little bit and say yes, my next studio that I'm very fortunate they signed on is going to be a place of magic. Just a place where magic I think that's what studios are about. That's what art is about.
Yes.
We're making magic. You know, we're not like, you know, going into the box with the, like Houdini used to do. We don't have to go that far with it, but we can if we want to. That's fine. But I'm really looking forward to that. A part of me is really looking forward to that. Another part of me really wants to be on a beach in the Maldives, and that will happen. But right now, I'm going to enjoy that and just feel the magic and enjoy it tremendously. Enjoy it. Take little weekend trips, but other than that.
Thank you. Love it. Anybody else have any place that we need to travel to before we close our talk today? Anything you're wondering and need to ask? No?
We want to thank you, Regina.
Thank you. Well, in which case, I'll turn to you guys here. Thank you for joining us, all that joined us here online and in the studio to chat with us, listen. Your questions, your comments have been appreciated, and you can continue to ask them. Feel free to comment on this video if you're rewatching it, and maybe our artists will volunteer some statements and questions or responses to those questions and statements. And of course, we invite you to come see the show if you have not. I would say if you're wondering what it looks like, come by and see it. So you can view this exhibition now through December 21st, and you'll find our shop and gallery hours on our website. When you can pop into the studio, you can also contact us for a virtual appointment if you cannot make it in person. So many opportunities and ways to experience it. We'll also be sharing some installation photos for those that aren't in the area to enjoy how all of these wonderful works have come together and are creating such beautiful relationships, perhaps a bit of what we've witnessed just having the artists sit and talk with each other today. So the last thing I'll invite you to do is to come see the play that we're putting on October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th this coming weekend. We have 3 shows, so a few opportunities to come see it. So thank you again for joining us. Thank you to the artists for sharing your work, your vision, your wonder. And we'll say goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.